The 2030 Brain Trap Map: 4 micro habits that quietly age synapses. Let's map the 4 quiet drains so you can spot them in your day and start reclaiming plasticity without overhauling your life. First, micro jet lag. This isn't about planes. It's the weekend swing or the "I'll sleep in tomorrow" move that shifts your wake time by an hour or two. Your brain reads that as misalignment. When your wake time drifts, circadian amplitude flattens, your cortisol slope blurs, and working memory drops. Monday feels like wading through syrup because your internal clocks, brain, gut, liver, aren't talking in sync. The fix is counterintuitive. Anchor wake time before you try to fix bedtime. A consistent get-up time plus morning light tells the system we're safe and on schedule, which lifts executive control. Do it for 7 days, and you'll notice re-entry to work blocks getting easier, even if sleep isn't perfect yet. Second, flicker fatigue. High refresh feeds run on variable ratio rewards, the same reinforcement schedule casinos love. Your attention system gets yanked into tiny prediction loops. Maybe this next clip pays off. That loop overstimulates ventral striatum and delays alpha recovery even after you put the phone down. You feel restless focus, eyes moving, brain not landing. The thing most people miss is the time tax after scrolling. It's not the 2 minutes you spend, it's the 5 to 15 minutes of subpar encoding that follows. If you've ever stared at a paragraph 3 times and still couldn't hold it, that's delayed alpha recovery in action. Add a 90-second friction buffer before opening dopamine apps, a home screen purge, and a 2-tap barrier, and you'll cut accidental entries. Then pair any necessary scroll with a 60-second reset afterward to clear the flicker residue and restore tonic attention. Third, caffeine timing drift. Caffeine's not the villain, timing is. It blocks adenosine, which is fine when adenosine is low. But hit coffee immediately after waking, before your body clears the overnight adenosine, and you just push that sleep pressure backlog into the afternoon. Then the crash hits, you sip again, and now you're drifting caffeine toward late day when its 4-6 hour half-life steals slow-wave sleep. Poor slow-wave sleep hurts LTP consolidation, so your next day's learning feels muddy. The simple rule: delay caffeine 90-120 minutes after wake to let adenosine clear naturally, and set a hard cutoff 8-10 hours before bed. That preserves the night's consolidation window and steadies daytime executive control. Expect a tough first 3 days if you've been drinking early. After that, baseline energy evens out and those 2 p.m. dives shrink. Fourth, fragmented micro-commitments. This one hides under good intentions. I have to reply, I should check, I'll just skim the doc. Dozens of small, unscheduled obligations stack into a constant low-grade threat state. Your DLPFC spends bandwidth arbitrating mismatched priorities, which feels like indecision but is actually overload. Autonomy drops, allostatic load rises, and your system defaults to shallow tasks for relief. The reframe is tiny and powerful. Change "I have to "I choose to" because you're not lying to yourself, you're restoring agency. Then batch similar micro-commitments into short, visible windows. A 15-minute reply block with a timer and a single input list protects the rest of your day from 1,000 cuts. You'll feel the difference by lunch: more follow-through, less mental clutter. Now, why do these 4 steal 5% of cognitive elasticity per quarter? Because together they push plasticity to adapt for short, reactive cycles. Micro jet lag dulls time-of-day consistency, so blocks feel timed. Flicker fatigue trains short prediction loops, so sustained encoding sputters. Caffeine drift blurs the day-night learning handoff. Micro-commitments sap autonomy, which the brain reads as unsafety, tightening attention into threat scanning. That's LTP-LTD drift and PFC overload baked into lifestyle. Here's the shortcut nobody teaches. You don't need heroics to turn this. Use minimum viable momentum. 1 anchor per drain, short enough to do on your worst day. For micro jet lag, lock wake time inside a 30-minute window and get 2 minutes of outdoor light within 30 minutes of waking, even on cloudy days. For flicker fatigue, grayscale your dopamine app and add a 2-tap barrier today. Tomorrow, pair any opening with a 60-second reset on exit. For caffeine drift, set your coffee alarm 90 minutes post-wake and move your last cup earlier by 30 minutes each day until it's 8-10 hours pre-bed. For micro-commitments, write a single reply window card and run 1 15-minute batch before lunch. Quick micro story: a client who swore they weren't a morning person locked wake time, added 2 minutes of outdoor light, and delayed caffeine by 90 minutes. Day 3 was rough. Day 6, their first deep work block started on time without the usual warm-up scroll. The difference wasn't motivation, it was restored circadian amplitude and a calmer prefrontal signal. Once you start these anchors, stack awareness. Notice when you're about to swing wake time, when a feed pulls you in, when you reach for a late coffee, when a have-to sneaks into your language. That's the moment to drop the 60-second reset and choose the anchor. It's not punishment, it's a vote for the 2030 brain you want. Next, we'll shift from map to method, the 4-phase neuro-regeneration system that rebuilds plasticity while you work. The 4-phase neuro-regeneration system, overview. Now that you can spot the drains, here's the system that rebuilds your brain while you work. 4 phases, each with one job: stabilize, rewire, load, sustain. We'll move from safety to speed, not the other way around, because a calm nervous system makes every tactic work better and stick longer. Phase 1 is stabilize. The goal here is simple: restore a safety-first baseline so your prefrontal cortex isn't firefighting all day. We increase circadian amplitude and vagal tone so cortisol peaks and dips land where they should, and executive control gets reliable again. The minimum viable momentum anchor is tiny. Lock your wake time inside a 30-minute window, get real morning light, and run the 60-second reset 3 to 4 times at natural friction points. The breathing plus tongue to palate hits the vagus. The palm press engages baroreceptors. The orienting sweep calms that flicker-induced hypervigilance. When your system gets these safety signals, block entry effort drops fast. Phase 2 is rewire. With safety in place, we engineer attention cycles so BA10 and the DLPFC stop hemorrhaging energy to switches. Predictable novelty beats chaotic novelty. You'll run either a 50-10 or a 25-5 rhythm based on your current bandwidth, and you'll shape friction in your environment to block variable ratio traps. That means a home screen purge, a 2-tap barrier on dopamine apps, grayscale on at least one feed, and notifications bundled to digest windows. The anchor here is a 90-second pre-block ritual. Quick orienting sweep, 1 round of nasal breathing, then set a visible timer. You're telling your brain this is safe, this is bounded, this will end, which preserves tonic motivation and speeds alpha recovery between blocks. Phase 3 is load. This is where we grow competence on purpose so dopamine tone stabilizes without cheap novelty. You'll build a skill ladder. Define the next hardest unit you can finish in one block, not the final outcome. Then you'll preload cues, checklist ready, files open, timer armed, micro stakes set. Add the pre-work variant of the 60-second reset to prime the PFC, slightly slower exhale, longer palm press, brief orienting to your work target. The idea is to make the first ugly rep happen within 3 minutes. Consistent first reps drive LTP, which consolidates during slow wave sleep, protected by your caffeine cutoff from earlier, and over 6 to 8 weeks you'll feel recall speed up. You won't need to hype yourself, your wiring will prefer depth. Phase 4 is sustain. Behavior follows identity, and identity needs evidence. We protect DLPFC bandwidth by removing decision thrash and locking in autonomy. You'll use I choose to because scripts for recurring tasks, then run a weekly 3-line identity review. 1 line on autonomy you exercised, 1 on competence you earned, 1 on safety you protected. That keeps your narrative aligned with your actions, which prevents the quiet slide back to dopamine drains. The anchor is a 6-minute Friday ritual. Scan your week, update your competence ledger, schedule next week's wake time, and pre-book 2 reset placements at your usual drop-off points, often around the 70% mark of hard sessions. A quick reality check. You don't have to master all 4 at once. Think staircase, not elevator. Stabilize gives you clean fuel, circadian amplitude, and vagal tone. Rewire fixes the leaks, task switch friction, and variable ratio traps. Load builds the engine, competence-driven plasticity. Sustain keeps you from ripping the battery out on a whim, identity, and autonomy locks. Each phase has a 60-120-second anchor so you can maintain momentum even on messy days. Here's the payoff path you'll feel. First, calmer mornings with easier block entry. Then, fewer restless scroll urges and faster reentry after interruptions. Next, deeper work that starts quicker and finishes cleaner. Finally, a steady, low-drama rhythm that makes tough projects feel doable without heroics. Safety before speed, structure before effort, competence before intensity. With that order, your 2030 brain gets younger
Phase
while you
1,
work today. Stabilize safety before speed. If your system doesn't feel safe, focus never gets deep. So we start here. Stabilize your nervous system so executive control comes back online and stays there. When vagal tone is low, the stress side dominates, cortisol spikes at the wrong times, and BA10 burns bandwidth scanning rather than steering. Raise vagal tone and you drop cortisol, widen attentional bandwidth, and make every later tactic stick. Safety before speed isn't fluffy. It's how you get your prefrontal cortex to trust you again. Here's the goal for this phase. Build a steady baseline that restores circadian amplitude and gives you reliable re-entry after interruptions. We'll use the 3 levers, autonomy, competence, safety, to keep this practical. Autonomy lowers allostatic load, competence steadies dopamine tone, safety lifts executive control. If you're rushing, you're missing one of those levers. Let's fix that with 2 anchors you can keep even on a messy Tuesday. Anchor 1 is the circadian gate. Lock your wake time inside a 30-minute window, 7 days straight. Don't start with bedtime. That's the mistake most people make. Wake time is the steering wheel. When you get up at a consistent time and step into real morning light, you send your suprachiasmatic nucleus a clean time stamp. That strengthens your circadian amplitude so cortisol peaks earlier, energy rises smoother, and working memory clears up. Even without perfect sleep, you'll feel a sharper go signal during your first block by day 4 or 5. Run this exactly. Tonight, set a wake alarm and a lights down reminder that's optional. Tomorrow, when the alarm rings, stand up, open a window or door, and get 2 minutes of outdoor light. Cloudy is fine. It's the intensity and full spectrum cue that matters. No sunglasses for those 2 minutes. Hold caffeine for 90 to 120 minutes after waking so your adenosine clears naturally. That delay is a small test of stability and a big signal to your body clock. After 3 mornings, the early jitter fades and your baseline smooths. Now anchor 2, the 60-second reset cadence. You're not going to spam breathwork. You're going to place 4 quick resets at natural friction points, right before your first work block, after any interruption longer than 1 minute, around the 70% mark of a hard session, and once after lunch. Do the default sequence, 4 rounds of 7-count nasal breaths with tongue on the palate, then a gentle palm press for 10 seconds, then an orienting sweep. Land eyes on 3 far points, 3 near points. You're engaging the vagus for a parasympathetic downshift, hitting baroreceptors to nudge heart rate and cortisol down, and resetting visual spatial maps that screens scramble. The combo tells your nervous system, no threat, resume executive mode. Let me show you exactly how to layer both anchors into a day. Wake at the same time, 2 minutes of outdoor light. Start water or breakfast tasks with a calm pace, no doom headlines, no inbox. At the 60-minute mark, if you feel a pull to check, drop 1 reset. That's your first safety ping. When you sit to begin your first block, do a micro pre-block variant, 1 slow nasal breath, 5-second palm press, quick orienting to your task window. Timer on, mid-morning interruption. Reset before you resume. Lunch done? Walk for 5 minutes outside if you can. If not, orient from a window. Then 1 reset to wash out the post-meal fog. Late block at the 70% mark, reset again. You'll feel the second wind instead of falling off the cliff. Now the 3 levers audit to keep you honest. Autonomy, change I have to start to I choose to start because I want X, say it out loud before blocks. Competence, set a tiny, clear unit for the block, 1 outline page, 5 code tests, 10 cold emails drafted, so your brain sees a winnable game. Safety, place the reset and the timer so your system knows this has edges. It will end. That trio lowers background threat, which is the silent killer of focus. Common mistakes to avoid: overhauling sleep before you stabilize wake time, stacking new rules on top of a fried system, and turning the reset into a performance test. The reset is a circuit breaker, not a ritual to perfect. Another big one, trying to outlaw all notifications in 1 day. Don't. Phase 1 is not about friction walls, it's about re-establishing calm control signals so friction will work later. What should you feel in 7 days? A healthier diurnal slope. Alert earlier, steadier mid-morning, fewer 2 p.m. crashes. Easier block entry, less internal debate, faster first keystroke. Shorter recovery after interruptions because alpha settles faster when you've signaled safety. And a quieter urge to just check, since your dopamine system isn't being yanked by threat scanning all morning. Quick micro story. A PMI coach was stuck at 2 false starts before every block. We did nothing fancy: wake time lock, 2 minutes of morning light, delayed caffeine, and 4 placed resets. Day 2, still choppy. Day 5, first block launched on the first try. No app change, no new planner, just safety signals restoring prefrontal clarity. Once that baseline appeared, the rest of the system finally had something to stand on. Run phase 1 for 7 days. Don't race. Place the anchors, speak the autonomy script, and let your nervous system exhale. With safety in place, rewiring your attention cycles gets a lot easier. Next, we'll engineer those cycles so BA10 stops bleeding energy and deep work becomes your default. Phase 2, rewire attention cycle engineering. With your baseline calmer, we switch from safety to structure. The goal here is simple: make your attention predictable so BA10 and the DLPFC stop bleeding energy from constant arbitration. Brains like novelty, but they do better with scheduled novelty than chaotic hits. So we're going to build rhythms, add smart friction, and use one short ritual that doubles your odds of entering a block clean. Start with rhythm. Pick a cycle that matches your current bandwidth: 25 minutes on with 5 off if you're rebuilding, or 50 on with 10 off if you're steadier. The thing most people miss is that the off minutes matter as much as the on. They're the reset window that protects tonic motivation and speeds alpha recovery, so you don't carry scroll residue into the next block. During the on window, single task. During the off, move your eyes off screens, stand, sip water, maybe do 1 round of slow nasal breathing. Keep it boring on purpose. If the break becomes mini entertainment, you're right back in variable ratio land. Now, friction shaping. You can't outdiscipline a slot machine in your pocket, so change the environment. Do a home screen purge, only work essentials on page 1, everything else 1 swipe away. Then add a 2-tap barrier for every dopamine app, put them in a folder inside a folder. That extra beat gives your executive control time to catch the impulse and choose. Next, grayscale at least 1 high-risk feed. Color is a cue for reward, take it away and you'll notice the urge drop. Finally, create notification funnels. Turn off real-time pings for anything non-critical and bundle them into 2 digest windows: 1 mid-morning, 1 late afternoon. You're converting thousands of micro-interruptions into 2 planned checks, which is how you protect BA10 from constant context flips. Before we continue, you need 1 keystone habit: the 90-second pre-block ritual. Do it right before you hit start on the timer. 1 orienting sweep, eyes land on 3 far points, 3 near points, then 1 slow nasal inhale and a slightly longer exhale with your tongue on the palate. Gentle palm press for 10 seconds, then speak a micro stake. I choose to do X for 25 minutes because Y, start the visible timer. This tiny sequence tells your nervous system, safe, bounded, meaningful. It primes the DLPFC for steering instead of scanning. Most people feel a quicker click-in within a week. Now here's where most people mess up. They try to fix attention with new apps. Tools are fine, but the lever is entry friction, not software features. Make the wrong thing a little harder and the right thing a little easier. Before each block, preload your workspace. The exact file open, the checklist visible, the first action highlighted. Hide unrelated tabs. If you can't close them for work reasons, park them in a separate browser profile so they're out of sight. You want 0 decisions between sit down and first keystroke. Let's stress test with interruptions. Assume you'll get hit. When you do, label it external or internal. External: coworker ping, doorbell, fire drill. Internal: thought loop, craving, random urge to check. For external, pause the timer, handle the thing, then drop the 60-second reset and restart. For internal, write the thought on a capture card, do 1 slow breath, and continue without pausing. 2 rules keep you honest. Never switch inside the last 5 minutes of a work interval, and never open a feed within 1 minute of a break starting. Those little guardrails protect alpha recovery and keep the end of the block clean, which is when most bailouts happen. Quick win for today: run 2 experiments. First, do a 25-5 with the pre-block ritual and the capture card. After the 5-minute break, rate perceived effort and block entry time. Second, repeat the cycle, but add 1 extra move. Put your phone in another room during the on interval. Watch how your brain relaxes when variable ratio doors aren't within arm's reach. Track your alpha recovery proxy by noting how long it takes to feel locked in after you start. Most see that drop from 7-10 minutes to 2-3 minutes within a week. Common mistakes to avoid: turning breaks into snack and scroll, stacking multiple timers for motivation, and chasing a perfect cadence. Your chronotype and task type matter. Analytical work often fits 50-10. Creative drafting sometimes likes 25-5 with a longer mid-cycle walk. Adjust by feel, not ego. If you're white-knuckling the last 5 minutes every time, your load is off. Shorten the interval or shrink the task unit. Here's the shortcut nobody teaches. Pre-commit to your next block at the end of the current one. With 2 minutes left, jot the first step for the next session and leave the file open to that exact spot. That micro handshake with your future self halves the friction tomorrow. Pair it with a scheduled reset at the 70% mark in longer sessions. That's the cliff where most people drift. Drop the reset there, and you get a second wind without grabbing novelty. If you remember nothing else from this phase, remember this: predictable cycles beat heroic sprints. Engineer your attention so decisions are rare, entries are easy, and recovery is built in. Do that for 7 days and your DLPFC will stop firefighting, your motivation will feel steadier, and deep work will start to feel like default, not a fight. Phase 3, load competence-based deep work. With rhythm and friction in place, it's time to build horsepower, competence. The thing most people miss is that motivation stabilizes when your brain expects progress, not praise. Competence raises tonic dopamine, which quiets cravings for cheap novelty and supports synaptic plasticity so learning sticks. We're going to design blocks that your prefrontal cortex can steer without drama and your memory can consolidate at night. Start with a skill ladder. Not the big goal, one clear next unit that fits inside a single block. If the project is a research report, today's unit might be outline the 3-section spine or draft the intro paragraph and 1 citation. If you're coding, it's write a passing test and stub the function. For design, produce 3 ugly thumbnails with 1 constraint. The test for a good unit: you can describe it in 1 sentence and you'll know for sure if it's done. Now preload cues so entry is automatic. Before the block starts, open only the file you need, place a micro checklist at the top, 3 to 5 steps, and set the visible timer. Park reference tabs in a separate profile so they're 1 click away but out of sight. Create micro stakes. Send a 30-minute calendar hold to a collaborator or place a sticky note that says ship draft by 11:40. Stakes don't have to be loud, they just have to be visible. Here's the pre-work variant of the 60-second reset to prime the PFC. 1 slow nasal inhale, longer exhale with your tongue on the palate. Gentle palm press for 10 seconds to nudge the bearer flex. Orient your eyes to your exact work target, the document title, the line you'll edit, the function name. Say a micro intention: I choose to finish X because it moves Y start. This tiny stack flips your system from scanning to steering. Okay, so the tricky part is the first ugly rep. Perfection is an avoidance strategy disguised as standards. Your rule: produce a visible, imperfect first unit within 3 minutes. Type a placeholder headline. Sketch the boxy wireframe. Write the failing test. Once there's a mark on the page, your threat detectors relax and the DLPFC can allocate bandwidth to sequencing rather than self-judgment. If you remember nothing else, remember this: ugly beats invisible. Let me show you exactly how to run a competence loop inside the block. Minute 0, pre-work reset and timer. Minute 1 to 3, first ugly rep. Minute 3 to 10, expand the rep toward a crude version of the unit. At 10 minutes, do a micro scan, 1 breath, 1 check. Am I still on the unit? If not, note the drift on a capture card and return. Minute 10 to 20, complete a good enough pass. Last 2 minutes, leave breadcrumbs for the next block, write the next first step at the top of the file and bold it. That breadcrumb halves tomorrow's entry friction. The reason this works is biology. Clear units and fast first reps create repeatable successes, which stabilize dopamine tone. Stable tone reduces the pull of variable ratio novelty, so your attention system doesn't keep fishing for jackpots. Meanwhile, repeated, focused passes on the same circuit drive LTP, stronger synapses for that skill, so recall speeds up over 6 to 8 weeks. And because you delayed caffeine early and cut it off 8-10 hours before bed, slow wave sleep can do the consolidation work. Common mistakes to avoid: binary goals like finish chapter that hide 5 subskills, loading the block with research rabbit holes, and swapping tools mid-block because something feels clunky. Tools can wait. If you hit ambiguity, shrink the unit. Outline 3 bullets, not write the section. If doubt spikes, drop a 30-second mini reset. One breath, short palm press, quick orient, and continue. Don't restart the whole ritual, keep momentum. Quick win you can try today: run one 25-minute competence block with this recipe. Pick a unit small enough to ship. Preload cues. Do the pre-work reset. Force the first ugly rep by minute 3. Write breadcrumbs in the last 2 minutes. After, score the block on 2 metrics. Did you ship the unit, and did entry feel easier than last week? If either is a no, the unit was too big or the cues weren't ready. The game changer nobody talks about is the competence ledger. At the end of the day, spend 60 seconds logging 3 lines, the unit you shipped, the micro skill it exercised, and 1 sentence on what felt easier. This isn't journaling, it's evidence. Your brain needs receipts to update identity. Over days, that ledger reduces self-doubt at block start because you've taught your system, we finish. What if you're mid-project and everything feels messy? That's normal at the midpoint dip. Place a reset at the 70% mark of your long session. When the cliff appears, hit the triad, breath, press, orient, then switch to a smaller subunit for the last stretch. You'll salvage the second wind without grabbing novelty. Micro story: a creator I coach kept stalling on video edits. We shrank the unit to assemble A-roll for 3 scenes, preloaded the timeline, and used the pre-work reset. The first week, they hit 3 ugly assemblies per block. By week 3, entry dropped from 8 minutes to under 3, and publish cadence doubled, no extra hours, just cleaner cycles and faster first reps. Here's the practical checkpoint. If your blocks aren't shipping visible units, they're too big, too vague, or too interrupted. Fix the unit, fix the cues, protect the first 3 minutes. Do that consistently and you'll feel the flywheel. Steadier motivation, faster recall, fewer bailout scrolls. Once competence is rolling, we'll lock it in so it doesn't slip when life gets noisy. Phase 4: sustain identity and autonomy locks.